So, in her head was a course I did a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Sarah McKay, an Australian doctor and neuroscientist. So, my question to myself was why neuroscience proves my point. We should embrace and celebrate the menopause transition, just as we should or do other stages of life, such as puberty and motherhood. And that this transitional journey is unique to every single one of us, and therefore has to be managed, supported, or treated with that in mind. So, firstly, why does the Western world often give menopause such a negative connotation when in some cultures it is seen as the second spring? And if it is so negative, wouldn't we die like the majority of other mammals after they have stopped reproducing? And why don't we die? What makes us so similar to orcas and short-finned pilot whales who can live to anything between 30 and 50 years post-menopause? All questions that went whirling around my brain during the course. The grandmother theory suggests that we, like the whales, lose our ability to reproduce so that we can focus on leading, supporting, and helping to sustain our children's children, perhaps as menopausal matriarchs and post-productive females, whose purpose is to bestow our ecological knowledge, experience, and wisdom for the better of society and future. As a recent grandmother, hopefully edging towards that menopausal moment of not having had a period for a year and being able to class herself as indeed past it, I love the idea of having that unique opportunity to lead and support the future generation and finally to be considered wise. However, it has taken me a while to get to that point. But now, through much study, courses, and retraining as a menopause coach, I have the evidence. As a side note here, I never excelled at science and I'm no scientist, but this is my take on the material and resources I have scrutinized and studied. So please accept my apologies for any factual misconceptions. Firstly, I want to applaud our bodies and especially the brain for helping us transition through the different life stages, although not always with ease. Just like in puberty and pregnancy, it appears our brains adapt again during menopause, and their plasticity ensures we can manage the next stage of life, improving the parts of our brain that are needed to function best to best manage that time. In fact, Lisa Mosconi has shown how in perimenopause, grey matter volume and brain energy efficiency decrease only to bounce back after menopause, and white matter volume seems to decline temporarily. I believe there are similar changes during pregnancy, so the brain can reorganize itself to support the maternal instincts and needs of the baby. Fascinating and incredible, really. Mosconi also goes on to call it a dynamic neurological transition, which reflects the adaptive process serving the transition into late life. In my mind, I see this as the brain doing what it has to do to manage the fluctuating estrogen levels during perimenopause before they flatline. Emily Jacobs goes further to describe how the two sides of the hippocampus start working more closely together at this time, especially during memory tasks. She states how this collaboration and teamwork ensure a healthy aging and how our matriarchal brain recruits more networks to work together in cooperation so they can get the job done. In other words, as estrogen needs to decline so we can no longer reproduce, and so we can actually get on and do the grandmothering, the brain needs to make up for the estrogen receptors that are scattered throughout the brain areas, especially those which help regulate temperature, sex drive, sleep, emotions, attention, and memory. The way the brain does this is through receptor upregulation, increasing the receptor density. Interestingly, and still unknown why, this doesn't seem to happen in all areas. However, this all seems to explain to me that the variety of cognitive symptoms we might face might be down to this fact. In addition, as estrogen also interacts with other hormones such as serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and glutamate, the brain needs to adapt here too. Now, I have very much simplified what is going on with the brain because it makes it easier for me and hopefully for you. However, what is going on in the brain doesn't necessarily explain why we all have such unique journeys through this time of life. Because, of course, nothing would be that simple. However, if we consider the fact that our journeys throughout our lives are unique, from in utero onwards, And we used Dr. Sarah McKay's model of bottom up, outside in, and top down, and how this model affects our own lives, we possibly have some of the answers. Bottom up. What happens in our body through our genes, hormones, nutrition, the food and drink we put into our body, our immune system, exercise, whether we do it or not, and what we do, our sleep, whether we have good quality sleep or poor sleep, and other lifestyle choices all affect this unique journey. Outside in, how the world around us, our environment, our education, other people, our relationships, our culture. In other words, everything that affects us through our senses plays a role in this unique journey. Top down. What is inside our minds from our thoughts, memories, experiences, our expectations, habits, beliefs, and the language we speak. All of these affect this unique journey. Our brains are there to support us and to help us transition through each stage of life. The bottom up, outside in, top down model can help make these transitions easier or harder. Thankfully, some of it is within our control. As a menopausal woman, a menopause coach, and a grandmother, I want to fulfill the grandmother theory and ensure I embrace this transition by focusing on what is in my control, where I live, what I do from day to day, my lifestyle, how I feed my brain, how I feed my body, how I feed my mind, and supporting my brain with courses like I did, the In Her Head course. So this research has backed up and proved to me how unique this journey is and how we need to turn this transition into something positive and creative, our second spring, where we can celebrate our uniqueness and we can be empowered to lead and support the next generation by being those role models, those menopausal matriarchs. Thank you for listening.